We are live.
Okay, thank you, Mike and LTV. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for March 2nd. I believe this is March 2nd. I believe it's the 3rd, isn't it today? Oh, I beg your pardon. It's sorry, March 2nd, 2021. My fault. We have 3 public hearings this evening and some other business to take care of. We'll get going with our first scheduled public hearing this evening. It is 62 Osborne Lane LLC is the applicant, and the lot size and location is 22,582 square feet at 62 Osborne Lane in East Hampton, tax map number 300-187-1-2. Description is an appeal of the building inspector's interpretation regarding 255-11-20A, separation of accessory structures, and 255-11-23, limitation on accessory buildings. The relief sought an appeal of the chief building inspector pursuant to 255-8-30A1 of the town code. Applicants seek to challenge the building inspector interpretation dated 10/19/2020 that the pool house or accessory structure should be a standalone accessory building with a minimum of 5 feet separation to any other building, and if it contains a roof that connects the structures, then the open air appendage will have 2 sides open that connect it. This is in a B residence zone. The flood zone is X, and the secret class is type 2. And council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
I have an affidavit of mailings on the 19th day of February and posting on the 20th day of February. The paperwork appears to be in order.
Okay, thank you, council. Before I ask board member Brenneman to make a field report, I just want to make note for those who are listening or are intending on calling in for any of the public hearings to LTV to the number, please hold off on calling in until after your meeting has started. We have 2 more public hearings after this, Charovsky and Rutkowski. So when the meetings commence, you'll see we read them in. We have the field report. We'll have the applicant or the agent speak. We'll have the planning department speak, and then we will have the public speak. So there's plenty of time. You don't even have to call in at the beginning of the meeting, but please do not call in at the previous meeting as we have too many lines and we want to keep them freed up for the public hearing that is underway. Thank you all for doing that. And Tim, do you have a field report, please?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Visited the property earlier today, and as pictured, the property was properly noticed. Next, please. So I am on Osborne Lane, just looking in, facing south at the front of the home, and the only access to the backyard requires you to go around to the left of the house there, which would be to the west, to the east. Yep. To the east. Anyways, I walked to the backyard, and now I'm taking a look at the structure in question. And this is the pool house, which sits behind the pool. Next shot. So I've walked over just to take another shot of it here. And, a couple of things I would note. One is continuous roof line over the entire structure. Also, you can see that roughly 3/4 of the structure is open on one side. And then you can see toward the far end there that there is an enclosure. And in fact, I've got a picture of that next. So next. So now I just walked inside the enclosure to take a look at the roof construction. Next. Now this is a picture into the enclosure through the slider. There is a little kitchenette and then also a restroom in there. Next. All right, so now I've walked to the back of the structure. You can see stairs going down below in the back there. And again, the continuous roof line in the back of it as well. And next. And then I actually went up onto the porch and just took another shot from that angle. And again, this is related to the issues. These are not foreign concepts to this board. We've had a couple of 5-foot separation related challenges recently. And this will involve both that and I think the design element of the structure in question. That's it for my report.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Any questions, board members?
Nope.
Okay. Let's see, we will hear now from, let's see, council, should we hear from Ann Glennon? I guess the applicant, right? Yeah, we should hear from John first, yeah.
Yeah, the applicant,
Yeah.
and then planning just does a brief introduction, and then we'll
And
ask.
Okay, well, good evening, Ann, and good evening, John. Nice to see you. John, go ahead, please.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, John Tarbett for the applicant. This appeal, well, I guess let me just back up a little bit. This is unlike a variance request where the burden is really on the applicant when you request a variance, and you're trying to convince the zoning board to allow them to do something that's specifically prohibited. In this case, we are, as an appeal, and I know the board knows this, but I'm repeating it just for the record. In this case, when you appeal a zoning regulation, it's the zoning regulation itself is strictly construed against the municipality, which and any ambiguity in the language must be resolved in favor of the property owner. So it's a pretty significant shift in the burden. And so what breaking that down, what that means simply is that if the code is clear, then the code is clear. But if it's not clear, then to use a baseball reference, the tire is supposed to go to the runner. These are property rights, people own properties, and the zoning code takes away those rights for good reasons. However, only to the extent that it's not ambiguous. If it's ambiguous, then the homeowner should be allowed to do what they propose. What we call this structure is a pool house with a roofed patio. It's the pool house itself is about 100 square feet. The roofed patio is 8 by 25. So overall, it's about a 300 square foot structure. I have read Ann's the chief building inspector's determination, and I don't quite follow it because I don't want to put words in the chief building inspector's mouth, so it's probably better that she explains it. But I think what it's trying to say, the letter, is that there are two structures here, and that they're required to be 5 feet apart. And I don't follow that because when I read through the code, I see one roof line and one structure. And as far as being, if you look at the section specifically referenced, which is 255.11.20, that's the 5 foot separation section. If you actually read it, it says accessory buildings, including garages, if detached from the main building. So the use of main building there implies your house, right? And so, but the bigger issue with that paragraph is what occurs after the comma. It says if detached from the main building. So what that section of the code is really trying to do is make sure that when you have an accessory structure that is near a home, that there's at least 5 feet of separation between that accessory structure and that home. It's completely inapplicable here because you have one accessory structure. There's not two structures here. You have a pool house and you have a roofed patio. So I don't see how you can use that section of the code to apply to this situation at all. The other section of the code that's referenced in the letter is that a pool house has to be 200 square feet. Well, clearly the pool house in this situation is 100 square feet. It's not 200. And the roofed patio, under every definition of gross floor area, including the one I can read right now, it says, it says for all the other structures. So when I'm just reading part of the section of the code. So for all other structures, the structure that they're omitting there is the home. But for all other structures, including porches and roof patios attached to a habitable building, I read this, I'm sorry, I read the wrong part. The gross floor area of open air appendages such as porches and screened patios shall be calculated separately. So what we have here is an open air appendage. There's a 24-foot wide, 25-foot wide opening in this roofed patio. So it's an open air appendage, and you know, I remember Don Sharkey years ago, when asked about if something was habitable or not, he was famous for saying, "Well, can you stand in there in your underwear in the wintertime?" Clearly, this pool house could not be, you know, as you guys were there today, it wouldn't be very comfortable standing there without clothes on. It'd be very cold. It's not a habitable structure. It's an open air appendage. As such, its gross floor area is calculated separately from the pool house. So I don't see any section of the code that's either applicable or even comes close to prohibiting somebody from attaching a porch or a roof to their pool house. There's been some mention of that it's allowed if there's only 2 sides covered, and in this case there are 3 sides covered, but I see nothing in the code which says that it differentiates between 2 and 3 sides. So look, there was a section, I think this may be the first appeal I've ever done in 20 years of practicing law in East Hampton. I just don't see any section of the code that could even come close to prohibiting a roofed patio. After that, I defer to the planner and to the chief building inspector.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get out of my screen here. God darn it. Okay, sorry, I was trying to get out of my screen there. Okay, let's hear Michael Delalio from the planning department. Michael?
Evening, board members. Michael Delalio for the planning department.
Good evening, Michael. I'll go ahead and swear you in. Michael, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. The planning department doesn't get too involved with appeals. We're really just here to kind of serve as a background on these. So we'll defer to the principal building inspector, and if you guys require any other information, I can get that on the screen for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Next, we'll hear from Principal Building Inspector Ann Glennon. Good evening, Ann. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'll go ahead and swear you in, Ann. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Go ahead, please, Ann. Thanks.
Basically, it's been off of an interpretation that we've done all along when pool houses came about, and it was being done prior to me being in the office. We had no problem with the roof over. We just wanted it open aired all the way through because this particular structure is not that large, but most of them do meet the 200 square feet. And then they add on the enclosures, which we do have a few right now that are trying to do it also. And it is much larger than what John has shown here in his on this particular property. But also one of the things I kind of left out is floor area gross in the code. It says for buildings which are not habitable, the cumulative area in square feet would be measured from the outside of the building to the outside of the building. So, I mean, I just believe that the buildings will slowly start getting larger if we keep them totally enclosed without being opened. Like I said, this one would be pretty hard to live in, this particular one. And if it was going in for a variance, I would not have a problem with this particular one. But to change the code. I think, you know, it's going to change a lot because I've seen what's going on with these pool houses. I've been on cases with the pool houses, and this is minor compared to what's really out there, and you will be seeing them come pending on what goes on today.
Okay, thanks.
And can you talk to the open air appendage as relates to the code? Is it in the code?
It is under, as far as like screened in porches, they say, because there really is nothing for like pool houses, accessory structures. We've always accepted accessory structures, detached garage sheds, always as single separate buildings on a lot. We've never looked at them. Yes, we've allowed them to put little covered porches over the, you know, going into some of them and stuff like that for looks, but never, I mean, it's even been in front of the zoning board a couple of times where you have given approval for two buildings put together and stated that they couldn't have a door in there. It's in past, and I apologize, I was trying to find one, but could not find it. Where there's been zoning board decisions on two buildings put together like that in the past. But the only thing for open air appendage is it says like a screen porch. You can have a screen porch and it doesn't count as GFA because it's all screened in. So open air, you can't live in it.
Right, but if I look at the approved building permit plans, there is a roof over the entire structure, is there not?
Yes, it goes all the way across.
But it appears that those plans also have an opening in the front and the back and the middle.
Yes, correct, which is how we normally will approve it, where it goes, you know, where you can go through. Usually it's not even closed as much as this one is here. Usually the whole thing is open other than the pool house. Or we'll let them have the 5-foot separation. Some of them will put a shed on one end and a pool house on the other end. And it will be all open for a patio. And the reason this came about was a lot of people said they didn't want to have to sit in the sun. You know, they wanted to be able to sit there and have a barbecue area or whatever. And that's, you know, but we've always looked at them as single and separate structures and not attached to another building.
And if I could ask you, so we're looking at the at the plan that Michael has up. Michael, maybe you could pan back, if you would, to the whole sheet, if you please. I noticed on the building application, the building permit application, it simply states pool house 190 square feet. My one question is, are these the plans that we see in front of us that went with this 190 square foot permit?
John, I don't have the original building permit in front of me. I do apologize. So
Yeah, I do have it, but here, before, and Michael can always pull that up too, but
that
here's what
does look like the stamped plans.
yeah, it does. Well, actually, it does. But here's the thing Michael has in our packets included the building permit. You don't have to go to it now, Michael, but it's the architect, I believe, is Brusiska, and at the bottom he hand wrote in under pool house, he wrote 190 square feet. So a couple of things surprised me. That first of all, it comes in again. Could you go back to the whole sheet here, Michael, please? Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Michael, because I want to look at a few different things. So what's a little surprising to me is I visited the site as well, and the owner walked me into the backyard. And as Tim showed you, you have the pool house with the little, you know, toilet and the sink, and the pool house here, refrigerator, ice maker, counter sink, under counter refrigerator, ice maker. And then you have the 3-sided open air appendage. These plans show 2 structures in the foundation plan, you see. Each one of those is exactly 100 square feet. And there, I believe when you zoom in, I think it just shows, you can see, it just shows that they're up on walls with footings. You can see in the upper right in the cross sections. So I was there and I saw the thing in the back, and the owner took me downstairs, and there's a full basement I did the math, is 8 by 35 feet. It's 280 square foot, full 8-foot concrete wall basement with steel decking that is not being shown on these building permit plans, for one thing. And the reason I mention this is a number of reasons, but one is, can you remind us, is there something with regard to a building such as an accessory structure of that how far a basement can extend beyond the footprint of the pool house?
There really is no limit, John. I know the town board had looked at it at one time and it was going to be part of a change they were doing, but they never did the change. And we don't count it when it's underground for the GFA. In an accessory structure, we don't allow them to finish it at all. A lot of them do it under pool houses because they use it for the pool equipment.
Yeah. Yeah, I recall that. I recall that, as you say, when we were thinking about that. It's I have to say it's a bit surprising that the owner told me that the building inspectors came here and inspected this and inspected the foundation. If that's that's what he said to me. But it seems if they're referring to a set of plans like this that show these walls and footings and no basement, that they're inspecting an 8-foot basement. I mean, flags kind of should have gone up at that point.
They should have, they should have requested additional plans for the foundation, but we wouldn't have stopped the because, like I said, we have it in other pool houses that are only 200 square feet with the roof over, all open to another building.
I apologize.
Right. So theoretically, it doesn't. Hold on a second, John.
Yeah.
Theoretically, could as long as does that underground? I would imagine that counts as building coverage, does it not? When it's an 8-foot base? No, it does not.
No, not if it's underground. No.
So theoretically, you could build a bowling alley under a pool house with a. And I'm not trying to be smart here, but is that correct?
Like I said, we have not allowed people to finish anything underneath an accessory structure.
Right.
To date.
Right, but you're saying you can go.
John, I just want to mention, I think the ceiling height's 5'7", not 8 feet.
Go ahead, say again.
The ceiling height, not that it matters, right? Because it has nothing to do with the application, but the ceiling height's not 8 feet. It's closer to 5'7".
No, I was down there. I'm 5'8", and it was above my head quite a bit, John. I was there today.
Okay,
I was inside the structure.
We don't have to talk about it because it's completely out of the scope of the application.
Well, I'm allowed to ask the building inspector to clarify this stuff because it may be, eventually it is going to be in the scope of this application because plans and things like that, no matter what, are going to have to be updated. So it is pertinent.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
So, Ann, I'm confused about the purpose. I can read the code relative to the 5 foot of separation, but I wondered if you could comment on what the purpose is of that 5 feet of separation.
Sure. The reasoning why they try to keep the pool houses down to the size it is because we have gone to homes where they are living in the pool houses. And I know this for a fact because I've been on a couple of cases where we've had to go with the police and check these houses out for multiples of people being rented. So,
and I think the question was with regards to the code section of requiring the 5 foot separation between accessory structures.
Okay, that came from, which we've used in multiples. We've used it for patios with pools. We've used it. It's from the code that John read where it says from the main building, but it's been used for all because we can consider the pool house as a main building.
I understand. I can read the code. My question, though, is what's the purpose? I'm lost on what the purpose of 5 feet. What's the 5 foot of separation? What does that do? I don't get how that connects to the pool house. Whether the pool house is 3 feet from the pool, 5 feet, or 10 feet, somebody could still live in it. So I'm just trying to understand what the purpose within zoning is, if you know.
I don't. We just took it from the code because it was in there and used that interpretation.
I could answer that question, I think.
Tim, actually, I can get you the legislative intent from when it came into the code, if you would like that.
Well, and I know the agent for the applicant articulated that it was related to fire protection, and it comes from New York State Fire Code. which I tried to find, but I couldn't. Not that I'm expert at finding things in the New York State Fire Code, but I was interested in what the purpose of this was.
It probably is in there, and I can find it for you and then get it to the board.
Can I just mention, if we're going to focus on these two code sections, there's a couple words in that 255-1120 that have a lot of meaning. One of them is the term main building. That's a defined term in the code. And I can actually read it for you. The main building is, well, it's actually under principal building. So if you look up principal building or structure, it says a main building or structure devoted to principal use on a lot. So you can't have more than one main building on a property. There's further sections of the code which define it, main building. But the idea is you can only have one main building, and then everything else is an accessory building. When the code says that accessory structures have to be 5 feet away from the main building, they're referring to accessory structures from the home. So that's one big issue with relying on this paragraph to say that accessory structures have to be separated by 5 feet. The other big issue with this paragraph is that that would imply that there's 2 accessory structures here, or accessory buildings here. And as you saw when you went to the property, this is one building. It's a pool house with a roofed patio. So they're not detached, so when they're detached, they have to be 5 feet apart. But when they're attached like this, then in addition to the fact that there's no main building here, 255-1120 just wouldn't apply.
And may I ask you, and if we're looking at these plans here, assuming things were the basement, the foundation, all that was updated, you approve these plans, and the reason you did is the 10-foot separation that's shown in the plan. Is that correct? That's why.
Correct.
So basically, you would agree that this plan meets the code.
Correct.
Okay.
Way we've been approving it.
Yeah.
I mean, the permit was, the application for the pool house was written up as a 190-foot pool house. It didn't say pool house with porch, and the plans match this. When did the definition of it change to a pool house with the porch?
No, that's not the question. No, I think the question is, what is the code requiring?
Yeah, well, as Ann stated, this looks okay per the plan, and it's been called a 190 square foot pool house all along until the application for the appeal.
I think maybe the difference here is that what was built does not match the plans. So I think the principal building inspector would say that if we had built what she approved for a building permit, then there'd be no issue here.
Right.
The problem is we deviated from the approved plans. So I think that might answer your question.
Okay, all right. This was not built at all prior to getting the permit to legalize it? It was a permit to legalize it.
It's a new structure, and what you see on the screen was what was approved by the building inspector to be built. And as built, it deviated in the sense that it essentially looks just like this, except that it now has a rear wall on it. So you still stare straight into it, and we have a picture, right? So that's, I think I answered your question.
Well, not really, because the permit was done, the application for the permit says to legalize a structure which tells me it was already there.
Okay, yeah, so that's probably poor wording on our part.
Further changes after that?
Yeah, it's actually we're at the point where we're trying to obtain a CO for the house and the structure, and that CO is being not issued because the principal building inspector feels as though so this is an important point actually, that the pool house can have, I think the principal building inspector and myself would agree that a pool house can have a roofed patio. Where we disagree is that I think as long as it's open aired, that it can have 3 sides. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is where we disagree, is that you're saying that an open air porch or roof is fine, but it can only have 2 enclosed sides. Whereas I'm saying it can have 3 enclosed sides, and that what would put you over would be that if you put a 4th side on it and made it habitable, then it would be over the gross floor area allowed for a pool house. So I think our disagreement was over whether it can have 2 or 3 sides. And my argument would be that I can't find a code section that would prohibit you. I completely understand the issue of pool houses. I can't tell you how many people I've represented over the years who converted pool houses into structures, large or sleeping things done illegally. But they also do things in basements and garages. I think that's an enforcement issue. I don't think it's a justification to say that there's a problem with people doing things illegally. I think the way to handle that would be to go to the town board, and I know that building inspectors all over the East End do this when they recognize a problem, of which there are many, right? It's an incredibly difficult job. So they recognize a problem, and they bring it to the town board, and they say, this is a problem, how would you like to address it? Should we change the town code? That would be the way to handle this. I don't think you can simply say, we have a problem, and therefore we're not gonna allow somebody who has vested property, and they have property rights, they own a property. They should be allowed to do what they want as long as it meets code. And there is no section of the code that prohibits this. It's just a matter of not thinking they should be able to do it.
There's a couple of things that I think I would like to, that I think is important to me, and that primarily is the 5-foot separation to the main building. Can that be interpreted to apply to other structures on the property? And also the exact wording of the open air appendage and how it applies to enforcing the code in that regard.
Right, and I think the word detached is important in that sentence too, because it's saying that the 5-foot separation applies when things are detached from each other. So I think you would have to find that this pool house is somehow detached from the roof, and that the pool house is a main structure and the roof is a accessory structure. For that paragraph to work, I think that's what you'd have to do. You'd have to say that that somehow these are not attached. That somehow this is more than one structure here. You'd have to find 2 structures, one of them being a main building and one of them being an accessory building. If you go back to what I originally said, which is that ambiguity is always, and it's a cardinal rule of zoning, that when you're interpreting the code, any ambiguity goes to the homeowner. So when you take that into consideration, it's real hard to find at section 255.11.20 is somehow that we have 2 structures here that are required to be 5 feet apart and that they're not attached.
But again, what's the main building? What's the main building as it is in this thing? Is it the pool house or is it the principal structure?
Well, the code's very clear. You can only have one main building on a property, and that would be your home. So I think that's another jump in zoning logic to call a pool house a main building.
Well, your definition before, you said it's a principal building.
Right. There's only, exactly. One of the definitions of the code says that a main building is the principal building.
And does this fit a definition of a porch? Is there a definition of porch in the code?
Unfortunately, there's not.
It just says that it's not counted in GFA because it's open. And that's why porches have been allowed on different structures throughout. But just for a little clarity, John, so you're right. I do look at it as attached once the 3rd wall went up, and bigger than what would be allowed for you're only allowed a 200 square foot structure and you attach the back wall. And now you go ahead and add another 200 square foot structure. I don't see how that is now only 2 separate 200 square foot structures.
Yeah, I can address that.
But because it's attached, but I also wanted you to know, I actually have brought this to the town board because of recent of it all, you know. So I have followed the right protocols to try to.
No, I appreciate that.
But that's fine, but we're before the zoning board now, and we have to look at, I think, you know, maybe the town board does need to do something about it, but we have to look at the strict interpretation of the code here.
In response to, I apologize for saying Ann, but I do like you, Ann. We know each other well. So I keep trying to call you the principal building inspector, but in response to what the principal building inspector just said, if you were to reverse course and go a different route and say that this is one structure and over the gross floor area allowed for pool houses, you would run into a problem, and that is that the actual definition of gross floor area. Gross floor area specifically excludes from its calculations open air appendages such as porches and screen patios. So a screen patio is actually 4 walls, right? Typically you'd have knee walls, a certain height, and then you'd have screens around it. So even if we were to add a base, a knee wall, whatever you call that, and then screen that in, it still wouldn't count as part of the pool house GFA because of course it's open air. What would trigger and it's very clear right under the definition of gross floor area, so you don't have to trust me. There's also yeah, I mean that's actually the main section. When you read the definition of gross floor area, it says you exclude from gross floor area open air appendages such as porches and screen patios, which shall be calculated separately. So you can't say that this attached this one structure, you can't say that it's over the gross floor area because 2/3 of it is open air, right? It's got a 23-foot wide opening. And again, this is a tough example because this is not, as the principal building inspector said, this is not an egregious example, but because it's a 23-foot wide opening, it's very clear that there's no malintent here because if so, you would have designed it differently. This is the owner actually is a local builder who's Irish like me and suffers from skin cancers. You can see, actually, I don't know if you can see on the screen, but I got a bunch of them cut off recently. So the idea was to allow as much sun protection as possible, right? So low sun comes east, west, south, north. Now, you could say you then stay inside in the basement all day, but the idea was to be able to sit by the pool and get the least amount of, stay out of the sun as much as possible, including, I guess it mostly be sun, but I guess if it was raining, you could also, you could sit out there. I guess you probably wouldn't, but the real issue, and I've talked to him about it at length because the owner's a friend of mine. He's from Ireland and he has, like me, skin issues. So the idea was simply to try to create an environment where you can get the least amount of sun exposure possible. And while I recognize that other people have tried to use sections of the code to do things they're not allowed to do, I don't think, I don't, it's not that I don't think, I know for sure that you can't rely on that. You have to, if you're going to prohibit somebody from doing something, there has to be a section of the code that prohibits them from doing something.
Yet this is the first time the building department has come across this?
As far as
having a back wall on.
No, it's something that's been coming up. We've had quite a few of them pop up, but they pop up after they've already been issued a building permit.
And since this code was in here, you've been interpreting it with the 2 open sides as being
Correct, and open all the way through, yeah. Not many of them have 2 structures on each end and the basement underneath. Most of them just have the 1 structure and then the covered patio. And that's how most of them have been. But lately we do have some that we're running into this also with.
I'd like to ask Inspector Glennon a question about, I visited the site as well, and I see that large 24-foot opening. Would it have affected your judgment at all if the middle third of that had been open without the 2 ends stayed closed in? Would that have been any part of your logic in approving this or not approving it? If a portion was open, would that change its condition in your mind of what you were looking at?
I apologize. I don't think I got all of what.
Well, I'm just wondering if it was open on the back wall, that southern wall, for a third of it, let's say the middle section, almost like we're looking at this drawing of the south elevation when we see through. If we looked into that opening that's 24 feet wide and 8 foot of it was open, I just wondering for a definition of what we're looking at in these porches, that second side being partially open, would that have been looked on more favorably by you when you visited the site? Or would you could hold it to a harder standard and say that the entire back wall has to be open in this case?
We have been kind of holding them to the whole entire back wall being open and keeping them as separate. Because like I said, the interpretation in here has always been accessory structures are single separate structures standing there, not two structures put together. So we kind of have been holding them to keep them separate so that they're not attached.
So in fact, here you did approve this with the 2 walls, but your logic would be that they had the 10-foot separation in the sidewall. Is that correct, Ann?
Right.
So John, John Tarbett, I ask you, this is the plan that the homeowner submitted to get built and was hoping to get built and built it differently. Why did the homeowner submit the plan the way it is right now with the 10-foot separation?
So it just so happens that we're talking about the homeowner's property, but this is a generic request for an interpretation from the building inspector.
Yeah, I know that.
So at the end of the day, the question is there anything in the code that prohibits anybody? And I actually had a number of people reach out to me on this issue, from surveyors to other people affected because they built structures like this. And so again, I'm not really sure where your question leads us. I think your question was, why did they deviate from the plans?
Well, I'm wondering if the architect was looking at it the same way Ann is, because the architect submitted a plan that conforms to what Ann believes it should be. That's why. Right.
So I think we've both been around enough jobs to know that when you build a house, I mean, my dad, having built a bunch of spec houses, his builder was famous for looking at the plans from day one and saying, I got it, and throwing them away, and then building what he thought would. I mean, I don't know of very many projects that and built exactly how they were originally proposed. There are always changes made in the field, and maybe those changes are through work orders, or maybe depending on what table, if you have a full service architect that's staying on the plans throughout, but frequently you don't. You pay for a set of plans, and when you go to build that, you discover things in the field and you change your plans. Again, I don't know how it has any relationship to an appeal of the zoning code section, but I assume that he decided that it would look nicer a different way.
But Mr. Tarbett, how does that justify it in any way? How does that justify the fact that the approved plans were not followed? I mean,
it doesn't justify it at all. There's no attempt to justify deviating from a set of approved plans. I assume a stop work order could have been issued. I'm just saying that it is not completely unusual for slight deviations. Something more egregious would be someone adding to their house. You apply for a 2,000 square foot house and you build a 3,000 square foot. So that's obviously really egregious. Something minor would be you might have originally proposed vertical deck railings and you went horizontal, right? So that would be something really minor. This is somewhere in between, probably closer to changing the type of railing you want. But again, there's no attempt to justify deviating from a set of approved plans. What we're here today to do is to figure out if there's a section of the town code which prohibits somebody from having a covered porch with 3 enclosed sides.
Okay, any more questions, anyone? Any board members, any questions? And then we'll go and see if there's anyone. Council, with public participation?
Yes, the public is invited to participate. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's why notice is given.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to confirm that. LTV, do we have anyone on the line?
No, John, there are no callers right now.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Okay, board members, if that is it, Tim, do you want to close us out?
Sure. So in the appeal of the principal building inspector's ruling at 62 Osborne Lane, 62 Osborne Lane LLC at 62 Osborne Lane, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-187-1-2. I move to close the hearing and to leave, do we leave the written record open for this as well?
Yes, we do.
And to leave the written record open for 2 weeks after the transcript posts on the town website.
I'll second that.
I'll concur.
And I concur as well. Okay, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Michael.
Yeah,
Thank
bye.
you.
Okay, we'll move on to our next public hearing. The applicants are Alan and Nancy Charovsky. And the lot size and location is 21,729 square feet at 63 Meeting House Lane in Amagansett, tax map number 300-171-5-18. The description is to allow the pool equipment to remain within rear yard setbacks. The relief sought one variance of 4 feet from 255-11-10 of the town code dimensional regulations to allow the pool equipment to remain 16 feet from the rear yard northeast lot line where 20 feet is required, and any other relief necessary. This is in a B residence zone. The flood zone is X, and the secret class is type 2. And council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting? It's 21,729 square feet at 63 Meeting House Lane, Amagansett, tax map number 300.
Trevor, you're going to have to turn
Trevor,
off your
Trevor,
recording.
Shut up your TV or whatever. Thanks, Trevor. There we go. Thanks, council.
Yes, we have an affidavit that the mailing was done on, I believe it says the 10th day of February. The receipts indicate, I'm sorry, it was the 19th day of February, and that the posting was done on the 19th day of February. So the paperwork appears to be in order.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, council. Okay, this is in my Amagansett district, so I have a field report. I think Michael is going to assist me. Okay, thanks, Michael. So here we are at 62 Meeting House Lane. It was very well posted, as you see. And then next photo, please. I turn to the left here up towards Main Street, up Meeting House, just for the character of the neighborhood.
Sorry, I'm having issues.
That's all right. You can see from this in the survey, and you'll see it's a very long, thin, a very long, narrow lot. Here we are looking up towards Main Street, Route 27. We all know lovely Meeting House Lane. And here we're looking down towards the ocean on the second shot. Next, please, Michael. So unfortunately, there's pool fences and gates on both sides of the house, and they were completely locked. They're very well built and they're safe, and they have a very nice latching lock system with no key to be found. So Trevor, that was a little bit unfortunate, I have to say. But what I did is I stuck my iPhone above this fence in the hedge, and I did the best I could. So I took this as a long distance. You see the porch on the right. I included that just to give you a sense of the distance between the house and the pool cabana and the pool. And then I just zoomed in, thank goodness for iPhones. And you see, it actually took a pretty good picture, I think. You see there is the pool equipment on the right-hand side over that little enclosure. You see the pool in the foreground, the pool house with the roof overhang on it. Next, and now I went to the other pool gate on the other side of the lot of the house. And again, a pretty, you get a sense of what's there. You can also see it's very well screened from these photos on all three sides with, with here we are in the middle of February, and you see the hedge is screening it quite well. next, there might be one more. Yeah, look, there, I zoomed in again. You get a little bit, a better shot of the subject, pool equipment. And that's all I have. Board members, any questions?
Nope.
No, I'll take that for no. Okay. Let's hear from the applicant. Good evening, Trevor.
Hi, good evening. Trevor Darrell, Fleming and Darrell PLLC, on behalf of the applicants, Dr. Turovsky and his wife. And I know it was the 19th because we were in the middle of a blizzard and I had to go down and post the property. So that's why it's actually on the blue cork board. So I want to make sure it's something I could attach it to that would stay in the snow.
Right.
So yeah, this is probably one of the most straightforward applications I think I've ever presented to this board, in that the lot, as the chairman noted, is very narrow and it's at 20 feet setbacks basically on each side of the pool. So there's no real way to go sideways with the pool equipment. And the original design and the building plans, and I just was listening to the last application, but the plans that were submitted actually had the pool equipment in the basement of the pool house. So they weren't showing on the survey. And then whatever happened during the construction phase, they were installed on the exterior of the pool house in the current location. And when the surveyor came back to do his final for update, or to close out the permits and get the C of O, is when it was flagged and noted that it is at 16 feet, not at the required 20 feet. And there was really no place to move it except to on the pool patio, which had already been constructed. So I did have the applicant sort of get an estimate of cost of what that would be. And I submitted that to the board as well to see the cost to relocate the pool equipment. There's not a whole lot of places it can go, but it would be, quite expensive to relocate it because you'd have to remove, existing slate patios and things and plumbing to relocate it. The applicant, we did review the planning department's letter as well, and they would have no objection to filing covenants that any screening, if any of that screening that the chairman noted were to fall ill or need replacing, they would always maintain the screening between them and the neighbor. And it is enclosed in fencing, as well, but so to keep any noise down.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. Board members, any questions?
No.
No, I don't either. So let's hear from the planning department. Michael, if you please. Good
Evening,
Michael,
board
again.
members. Michael Aller for the planning department. As Trevor said, this is a fairly straightforward application. The building permit for the pool on the survey had listed the pool equipment to be moved. It didn't say, at least on the survey that I was able to track down, or the plans, it didn't say that it was to be located in the basement. That would have definitely been a viable option. But at any rate, it has been moved from its original location to the current location that requires the variance. It is well screened. The planning department doesn't hold a strong opinion either way on the application.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Let's see, do we have anyone from the public, Mike, at LTV?
No, there are no callers at this time.
Okay. Any questions? Again, one more shot. Anyone have any comments or questions? Otherwise, I'll close this out here. Okay. Okay, with regard to Alan and Nancy Churofsky, at 63 Meeting House Lane in Amagansett, I make a motion to close the public hearing and to leave the written record open until 2 weeks after the transcript is posted on the town website.
Second?
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you.
Oh,
I concur.
thanks, Ed. Okay, thank you all. And I concur as well. I mean, I made the motion. Okay, here we go. On to our third public hearing this evening. Daniel Rutkowski is the name of the applicant here. Lot size and location is 16,385 square feet at 1854 Montauk Highway, Montauk on the Sea, Section A, Lot 5 and 7, map number 2438. Amagansett, tax map number 300-131-2-15.1. Excuse me. Description here: to construct a 361 square foot first story attached garage with 361 square foot second story addition above, remove 360 square feet of second story decking and replace with 347 square feet of second story decking. Pardon me, remove 759 square feet of first story deck and replaced with a 790 square foot patio, and construct a new 392 square foot swimming pool, allow an existing shed to remain, and to clear and allow the clearing of beach vegetation to remain on a parcel of land containing beach vegetation and dune land. The relief sought here is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 of the East Hampton Town Code is required for this application and any other relief necessary. This is in a B residence zone. The flood zone here is AE, flood zone elevation 10. The secret class is type 2. And council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
I have a affidavit that the mailings were done on the 19th day of February and that the posting was done on the 20th day of February.
Okay, thank you, council.
But they appear to be in order.
Thank you, thank you. So here's my field report. I think there's one before this. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Michael. Tyler, good evening, Tyler. Thanks for your help. So there you see it was well posted and not blown down on this crazy windy day. That's the house on the right side, as you see, looking into the driveway there, and the shed that's part of this is on the left side of the photo here. Maybe you can scroll back to the left a little bit, Tyler, if you can, like you did before. There we go. So there, that gives you a sense of the street facade or the street view. Next, please, Tyler. Now I just walk in and just give you a little more close-up shot of that side of the property with the shed there and the neighboring structures on the northeast side there. And you see a house of residence or something in the back there. That's the gate straight ahead. Next shot, please. Photo, please. Now I've just panned over to the right just to give you a sense of this house. You see the second floor decking on the, we'll call it the west side there, and now and the neighboring house, just to give you a contextual photo there. Next, please. Now here's some, you see I've gone over to the very corner, we'll call it the northwest corner of the property, looking back at the house and along the property line towards the backyard. Next photo, please. And now I've walked around through the gate and I'm looking, so we'll call it to the west towards the backyard there. You see there's a sandbox and the porch there and a fire pit out on the back corner. Next, please. And then I walked back towards that fire pit in that back corner, and I just took a picture kind of looking towards the ocean, just to give you a sense of the neighboring houses around the property there on that back side. Next, please. You can see the dune land, a little sparse as the dune land that are left. They're quite beautiful back in there. Now I've just spun around, as you can see the fire pit on the bottom left, and I'm looking back at the shed and looking towards the neighbor and along that back property line where the clearing occurred. Besides that one tree. That may be it, Tyler.
Oh yeah, looks like it is.
Yeah, I think that's about it, right? Okay, any questions, board members? No? Okay. Okay, let's hear from the applicant or the agent. Is it Madeline, I believe?
Yeah, hi, good evening. Madeline Ben John here representing the applicant.
Good evening.
Good evening. So I see this is the most recent plan that I submitted. Initially, the application was a little different, and then we received Tyler's TAM, so we decided to go ahead and take most of his recommendations, and we've made some changes. So we're still proposing the small addition with a first-story garage and second-story living space. The addition is proposed over the existing driveway, so there's no disturbance. And then there are the changes to remove some of those wooden decks that were shown in the photos, and to add some new decking in a different location. And again, no new clearing would take place for that. And then in response to the TAM, the applicant has decided to remove the shed altogether. That was added on there to be legalized, but in response to Tyler's concerns, we are going to remove that altogether. And we've moved the pool in closer to the house and pulled back in the clearing line, or the revegetation line in this case, because we're not doing any new clearing, we're just revegetating. We've pulled the number back into what Tyler recommended. The prior owner of this property had done some clearing without approvals, and we were always planning to return it to the numbers prior to what that owner had cleared. But now we're going above and beyond, and we're revegetating over 5,300 square feet to pull it back into that dark green line there. So everything will be very, very constrained on the property to a small area. And I did, in my memo of law, I had mentioned that there was a 1997 approval on this property for a pool and a pool house that was never built. So Tyler's recommendation was that we keep the clearing kind of to the area that was approved in 1997. So I think that's what we've done now. We've pulled back in the pool, and of course we're not proposing a pool house, which had been originally proposed. So basically we've pulled everything back from what was originally proposed. And I think that we're definitely keeping this as minimal as possible. This is a double lot for the neighborhood, and it's going to be, basically right now it's going to be approximately, it's over 60% vegetated area, and we're not doing any new clearing. So all that dune land that you see at the back will remain. And instead we're adding over 5,300 square feet of new revegetation to hopefully bring this back to establish more of a dune land look back there. So if anyone has any questions, I can answer them.
So this is the plan we're working from. The survey has not been updated with the new plan, is that right?
Yeah, we didn't have time between getting the TAM, and our hearing was actually scheduled really quickly after we got the TAM. But we will get the survey updated while the record is still open. So everything will match.
Now, on that approval from 1997, that was a smaller pool and it's above ground that had been approved back then. Now this one is proposing a larger pool and it will be in ground, right?
Yeah, we thought in-ground was just a better look. And basically sort of as a trade-off, we got rid of the pool house concept altogether. So the pool did get a little larger, but it is still a pretty modest sized pool at 14 by 28.
I have a question about the proposed or the future pool fence. Obviously, you didn't have time to upgrade the survey, and this drawing here gives us the revegetation. But how do we anticipate a pool fence working relative to the newly revegetated areas?
Sometimes pool fences go into the re-veg because, before you plant the re-veg, you would just put in the pool fence and then you leave it there. We can get that added to the survey. If there's any location board members who prefer to see it or not see it, we can take that into consideration.
I think between now and during our considerations, I'd like to see where the pool fence is proposed to be. If that can be followed up by you, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Madeline, what are you proposing around the pool and the deck, between the pool and the deck and all? Is that meant to be a lawn, or what is that meant to be?
I guess I talked to the homeowner about that. He hadn't 100% decided. It would either be lawn or sand area in the cleared area.
Well, I'm glad you say that because, I imagine many of the board members would prefer to see the sand out in this area here. So that's nice to know that the owner is amenable to that. That's helpful.
And that's uncleared area. It's just kind of scruffy looking grass. It doesn't really look like dune vegetation either.
We're proposing to revegetate a lot of that sort of scruffy lawn area. There is some dune vegetation existing at the back of the property now. Outside of the red line on this map is existing dune vegetation, but the sort of funny, the lawn area that is a little scruffy where the chairs were and stuff, that's kind of what we're proposing to revegetate with full dune vegetation.
Oh, okay. So outside that line, where all the dots are, you're going to do that too?
Yeah, well, that is, as per the survey, that's already vegetated, but obviously if there's nothing there, it'll get filled in. But
Yeah, that's what, if we went back and looked, it seemed to me when I took a photo, I imagine a lot of the area there that you are revegetating, it would be nice to see an existing survey under this.
well, it is there, the red line around the outside, that's the existing survey clearing line.
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking. Is that on the upper and the right side, that red portion up by the street? Is that pretty much the gravel parking that I was taking the picture of? The one with the gravel? Or Tyler, maybe you could pull up the survey. Would you, Tyler, please, for a second? Because it says, existing undisturbed area, and if the fence is along the, we'll call it the northwest side, northeast side, yeah. Can you scroll to the right, or I'd like to see I'd like to see the eastern side. Yeah, right there. So yeah, more to the right. If you can center the survey in the page somehow, would be great. Or maybe it's my screen. Maybe it's not your.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, it's me. I had the gallery. My fault. I have it now. Thank you. So maybe you can help here, Tyler. Where is along that eastern property line with the 20-foot setback? Where is the fence, or where?
The wire fence comes in here.
Yeah.
And then like down and around.
Oh, okay. So that area is in fact, I see that.
It's essentially along the clearing line.
Yeah. Okay. So that is in fact is not cleared. I mean, it's more than just grass over there to the property line, correct?
There's dune vegetation outside the
okay,
fence.
that's what I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I see what you said. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where the fence was exactly. I had gone back and checked that. Okay. That's helpful. I don't have any more questions myself.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions, but just a note of observance. It seems like the square footages on this thing are all over the place. In 1997, they said it was 97 approval is 1380 square foot. The C of O says 784 first and second, which makes it 1568. And then in the TAM is referring it to 1602. I just make a note that it seems like the square footages are all over the place here.
Yep. Well, Madeline, maybe you could look into the.
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes we see that on older approvals. The applicant bought this property last year, so it was already had a CO for the house.
Right.
We do sometimes see that where the old zoning board approvals and building permit numbers sometimes don't exactly match. But we can be certain of exactly what we're proposing to add, which is 361 square foot first floor attached garage and 361 square feet of living space. And no change, no other additions or subtractions from the living space GFA.
Okay. Let's hear from the planning department. Tyler, if you would. Good evening again, Tyler.
Good evening, Tyler Borsak for the planning department.
Tyler, I'll go ahead and swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Go ahead. Please.
Sure. And just to answer the question, that 1602 number just came from the current building plans that they're showing. That's what they showed the existing floor area as. So it could just be how they interpreted what the floor area is between then and now.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. So the property before the board is located within the Montauk on the Sea subdivision in Napeague. This area is comprised of smaller lots which contain dune land habitat and beach vegetation. Of the greatest concern to the board generally is retaining as much of the dune land character on these properties as possible while allowing for appropriate levels of development. Sensitive dune land and beach vegetation exists throughout the entire area and has been a priority of the board to protect the vegetation where practical. Many of these parcels were developed prior to modern natural resources zoning regulations. However, the dunes and dune land habitat remain throughout much of the area. The applicant is proposing to construct additions to the existing residence as they've gone over. So it's essentially a first-story garage with a second-story addition above it, and then some proposed decking and the swimming pool. The proposed shed has been removed from the plan, and it will be removed from the property if approved. Of note with this application is the 1997 ZBA determination for the original residence, which also included a 12 by 16 foot above ground swimming pool. And I have the survey for that. Just the board should have it. But
Excuse me, we have in our packet.
Yeah, we have it.
yeah, you should have it in your packet. But just in case, the swimming pool is right here, and there was a pool house as well, and then obviously the residence. Not great quality, but that is what it is, I suppose. So the pool is obviously in a similar location now as to what was approved in the 1997 determination. The aspect of the project with the largest implications for the property and this area in general is the swimming pool, and also the extensive clearing which had occurred on the property since the CO was issued in 2000. Much of that clearing appeared to have taken place between 2010 and 2013. I have the aerials for that as well. This is 2007, so you can see most of the property was duneland vegetation at that time. 2010 started to get a little extra clearing here, and then by 2013 it was all lawn in the cleared area, and the clearing obviously extended further out, and that persists till today essentially. So there was some significant clearing that occurred on the property. The planning department had recommended that the project be redesigned in order to consolidate the improvements and revegetate the parcel to the maximum extent possible. The applicants submitted these new plans, which removed the shed and relocated the swimming pool closer to the residence, and then proposed to revegetate, similarly to how it looked back when it was originally approved. The planning department still recommends that the lawn be removed from the parcel and returned to sand, with beach vegetation, throughout where practical, in keeping with that determination. The 1997 ZBA approval, the board conditioned the permit on no sod being used on the property, as well as no fertilizers, pesticides, or herbicides, in addition to conditioning that any areas disturbed during construction activity be revegetated. The determination was clear in limiting clearing and consolidating those structures to the eastern side and northern portion as much as possible during that period in time. The current proposal is certainly much closer to what the board had approved in 97, and the planning department had and to what the planning department has suggested in our analysis of the project. The board should still look at the amount of clearing as well as the location and size of the proposed swimming pool. The pool is larger than the approved 1997 swimming pool and is set back off the proposed decking by 2 feet. The board may want to tighten the pool up to the decking. And the planning department is obviously still, suggesting to revegetate as much as practical, with no additional lawn around the residence. The proposed changes to the existing decking and the additions are all fairly minor changes to the existing structure and should have no significant impacts on the surrounding dune vegetation or dune habitat, given the planning department's proposed mitigation measures and the changes that have occurred already. The changes to the decking and the proposed garage and second story addition appear to be in keeping with the board's previous approval in 1997. It was already addressed that an updated survey will be required. So other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. Board members, any questions for Tyler? No? Okay. Mike, LTV, we have any public comment here?
No, there are no callers.
Okay. All right then. If there's no more questions, I will go ahead.
I have a question on the survey. I'm looking at it says required pool patio and pool equipment setback. That's at the Montauk Highway side of that. Where is that going to be? Pool patio and pool equipment setback. Oh, that's just a setback. Never mind. Okay. All right. Never mind. No question.
Okay. I will then make a motion with regard to Daniel Rutkowski at 1854 Montauk Highway, Montauk on the Sea, Section A, Lot 5 and 7, map number 2438, Narragansett, tax map number 300-131-2-15.1, to close the public portion of the hearing and to leave the written record open for 2 weeks until 2 weeks after the time that the transcript is posted on the town website.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
Okay, thank you all. Thanks, Madeline, and thank you, Tyler. Okay, moving along. Next, it looks like we go to our work session. We have under D, other decisions. One, we have Gregory Bouhay at 15 Jackson Road, Montauk, tax map number 300-70-4-17. And this is a rehearing request. Terry, would you like to take it from here, please?
Yeah, this is at 15 Jackson Road in Montauk. If you recall, it was for additions to the house and new IA system. It was an NRSP, no variances required. We got a letter from the agent that the Suffolk County Department of Health has requested a change in one of the components of the IA system, one of the leaching galleries, and to alleviate a separation, or not enough of a separation, to a wall that exists in the northwest corner of the property. And they did give us a new survey with this, or a new plan, sheet S1. And you can see on that the expansion pool, it has to be turned 90 degrees. Other than that, there are no other changes. They're doing this at the request of the health department. So I did want to approve this to be reopened for, not reopened, but to have a rehearing on this property.
Are you making a motion for a rehearing?
Well, I thought somebody else might want to say something first.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm fine with this myself, Terry. Thanks.
okay.
I'm good.
I'm in agreement.
Ed, you good too?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Okay,
And I'm ready to make a motion.
thanks.
In the matter of Gregory Bouhay, tax map 300-770-4-17 of 15 Jackson Road in Montauk, that this project is approved to have a rehearing. Is that enough, Nancy?
Yeah, that's enough.
I'll second.
Concur.
I'll concur.
And I concur. Thanks, Terry. Okay, next we have the minutes from February 2nd, 2021, February 23rd, 2021. I've looked at these. They appear in order to me. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes
Which minutes?
from the February 2nd and,
February 2nd?
oh yeah, why is that? Yeah, I looked at them. Let's see, I have it open here. We have the
3rd and 2nd says.
23rd. Did we not approve the February 2nd meeting minutes? Let's see.
I thought we,
No, I
Yeah.
accidentally skipped a week and
Kyle?
I realized both at once. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Kyle, go ahead.
I accidentally skipped a week, so you're approving 2 now. I didn't include February 2nd originally. Can you hear me?
February 2nd got missed at a previous
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay,
So we're trying to get caught up so that they're all approved.
oh, that's right. Yeah, okay, that's what I looked at. Okay. Okay, does someone want to make a motion? So we have the correct dates, correct, Kyle?
Yes, yes.
Thanks, Kyle. Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion, please?
Sure, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as completed for February 2nd and February 23rd for the Zoning Board of Appeals meetings.
I'll concur and take it on faith for the 2nd.
I'll concur.
And Roy, I'm sure you
I
do.
concur.
Yeah. Okay, Kyle, thank you. You all caught up. Good man. Okay. Council, any more business on your end?
No, I just wanted to remind the board, especially since I think this was Ed's first appeal, if the board ever wants any legal research into anything or additional materials, please let me know. I'll be glad to provide those for the board in the memorandum with regards to, we talked a little bit about legislative intent. If I'm able to find that, I will get that to the board. But anything else of that nature, please feel free to reach out and request that, and I will provide that to you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Nancy. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, I believe, board members, we are at the end. Well, I think we need a motion from our vice chair this evening, Roy.
Sure. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the public hearing of the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals hearing on Tuesday, March 2nd at 7:50 PM.
Second?
Concur.
I'll concur.
I concur. Thanks, Roy.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Nancy, Lynn, Kyle, planners.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Good night.